All right, thank you very much for tuning in. So we're going to talk about Michel Marida, license number 007571, Dr. Dow's egregious crime of mass murder. Right, so this is the core issue. This is the overview of the entire issue. So this is a great video to get started on, just getting all the basic facts, and then many of the videos on this channel here will have a lot of details and everything. So this is a bird's eye view of the entire matter. So the indisputable scientific fact: human life begins at fertilization. It's on day one when the egg is it will travel from the ovary into the fallopian tube. The sperm will meet the egg, and the new baby here with the unique DNA, 50% from the father and 50% from the mother, will be created. Right. This is a conception. It's a well-known scientific fact. But however, in number two here, the medical community's deliberate redefinition of pregnancy to begin at implantation, to justify the use of abortifacients, right? So what are abortifacients? It means that it will not prevent the pregnancy; it will actually just kill the baby. So that's a serious cause for concern. All right, so this is not, pregnancy does not begin at implantation, and this is just, and it's not based in scientific or medical science or any kind of fact. It's just an arbitrary decision made by the industry, right? The pharmaceutical industry, and for some reason these doctors are getting away with just murder, and that's what it is. It's an egregious crime of mass murder. So let's back up here. This is a crime of murder. So this is certainly not. Not trying to paint a bad picture. No, I'm just stating facts. I mean, this is just what it is. All right, so the staggering and unprecedented scale of unprecedented. Well, let's talk about that for a minute. All right, it's never happened ever in the history of humanity, ever. This amount of destruction of life has never ever in the history of humanity happened for any reason, right? So the staggering and unprecedented scale of death caused by birth control pills, which likely surpasses surgical or medical abortions, any type of abortion, the birth control pill is the number one killer. Right, it's the number one. There's so many victims. There's so many victims that it's never happened before. Again, it's never in the history of humanity happened, and it's really it's really quite egregious. So the moral and ethical depravity of those who promote and facilitate these practices under the guise of healthcare, the complicity of institutions, including medical colleges and governing bodies, in shielding practitioners from accountability, and the deeply ingrained social and professional acceptance of these crimes, which allows perpetrators to be seen as pillars of the community. Right. So that's the thing. This is a wonderful. You see so many obituaries and say, "Oh, thank you so much to Dr. Dow." Well, for what? For prescribing chemo? I mean, this video certainly it certainly isn't about chemotherapy, but that's really dodgy. You got MAID, which is extremely dodgy. These types of gender affirming care and all this stuff, extremely dodgy. But we're not going to talk about that. We are going to talk about the number one most egregious crime in the history of humanity, and the criminal, right? The murderess, yeah, is Michel Marida, and that's just how it is. I mean, I cannot even believe it for a minute, but it is true. But after doing the research, it is clear, and we'll see here in this video that there is a guilty act, right? So the culpability here, we're going to talk about the culpability. All right, so the actress Reyes, her direct role in prescribing a drug that caused the death of a fully viable human being, right? So that is a guilty act, right? And the possibility of her own participation in these practices through personal use of birth control, knowingly killing her offspring. Now, this is only a 50%, 50%, right? So let's say, for example, she did not take these. And she practiced abstinence because she only had two children. Well, she has two children right now that are alive. Um, what about the rest of the children? Did she practice abstinence while prescribing birth control, or something like that? So prescribing birth control to witting, young women. And these girls are 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. They don't know any better, right? They don't know that they will take this drug and the baby will be conceived and then it will be killed by these abortifacients, right? And it's quite it's quite creepy. This is the guilty act here that we're focusing on, the guilty acts, right? So the legal concept of omission, her failure to act in a manner that upholds medical ethics and prevents harm, right? Do no harm. Very simple. Do no harm, right? And she does the most harm. That is, it is the most harm, right? The most death and destruction of human life and the potential of the future. It's quite something, man. All right, so the mens rea. Here's the guilty mind, right? So definitely there's the guilty act. There's the guilty mind, right? So her knowledge of embryology from medical school, where she learned that fertilization is the beginning of a new human life, right? That's where the DNA is formed. That's where the 50% of the father and 50% of the mother. Where implantation? No, fertilization, of course. And there's no there's no reason to accept that implantation is the beginning. It's cognitive dissonance, or just outright dishonesty, or it's just a lie. I don't believe I don't think that they're believing the lie. I don't believe that they will accept this lie. I just think for convenience, or I don't really understand how so many people can get on board with this. Is cognitive dissonance, or hive mind, or whatever you have it. It's there, and it's causing the death of small boys and young girls, and it's quite egregious. It's quite egregious. Yeah. So the cognitive dissonance required to later accept to later accept implantation as the beginning of pregnancy. So she learned from embryology, and then after that she accepted that implantation was the beginning of a pregnancy. I mean, the question of whether she is willfully ignorant or knowingly committing evil acts, even if she genuinely believes the lie, would that relieve her from the mens rea, or does it indicate reckless disregard? Well, that is a legal question. And so, if she genuinely believes the lie, which I don't believe, I don't think that she does. I believe that she understands fully what she's doing, and she's just a depraved lunatic. Well, I mean, that's my personal opinion, but it would have to be tested. There would have to be legal tests there, and we'd have to prove the guilty mind beyond any kind of a doubt at all. I don't believe there is any doubt here. And now the complaint, right? So there's a complaint that was made. All right, so let's talk about the complaint right now. Now, the complaint process exists to protect the system, not to seek justice and accountability and the truth, right? So the truth will be swept under the rug. Regulatory bodies serve as a shield for practitioners, ensuring that no real consequences ever reach them. And the dismissal of the complaint was a cowardly move, avoiding a real examination of the facts. And what that is referring to is that I did make a complaint, and then the cowardly dismissal of the complaint was that she said, well, you didn't get prescribed any birth control, and then she disregarded the whole complaint, right? That was quite cowardly, yeah, for sure. So the expectation that any legal recourse will be met with institutional stonewalling. So for sure, the complaint is going to be dismissed for sure. So that's a great part, great fact to consider. The inevitable dismissal of the complaint. Sorry about that. So the inevitable dismissal of the complaint, right? So now let's continue on with the defense strategy, possible defense strategies, right? So personal attacks, right? She will attempt to dismiss the accusations by attacking my character, right? Predictable strategy will be to claim that I have mental health issues, right? Very, very easy to do. Oh, this guy's a mental health. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But I do. I actually, to be perfectly honest, I've been examined by some forensic mental health, and it was determined that and that is on file, and that is there's no, I mean, this defense strategy would be flawed, and it will quickly be. But anyways, I was determined to be perfectly, mentally sane, or I don't know how you want to word this. I don't have any mental health issues at all. I don't know how you want to word that, but there's documentation that it says that this guy's not doesn't have any kind of mental health issues at all. Although the field of psychiatry is extremely dodgy, but anyway, there's no type of mental health issues there, and there is evidence of that. There's evidence of that, and it's been determined by a psychiatric forensic analyst or whatever you want to call this type of uh, shifty, dodgy medical practitioner kind of person. Anyway, but it's clear that I don't have any kind of and these arguments are based in fact and all this stuff. So, but anyway, this possible defense strategy here does not address the facts. It's a deflection. It's not a defense. But it will certainly convince some people. Oh, this guy's crazy. Oh, this guy's crazy. The doctor is a pillar of the community. So they will dismiss the whole thing before addressing the facts. But that's the only defense that there is. A denial of responsibility. Now, she will claim she was simply following medical guidelines, and this does not absolve her just following orders. We have a whole video about just following orders. We're going to talk about that. And this has never been a valid defense for crimes against humanity. There's a whole other video about that. We'll talk about that and redefining the issue. So she may argue that this is a woman's right issue, so suffragette movement and all that stuff, rather than a murder issue. And this shifts focus away from the core fact that a human life was destroyed. So, they're going to start talking about feminism and all that stuff, and it's not. It's not even about a woman's rights. So these women's rights and all that stuff will not include the murder of a young boy or a young girl. It's a very it takes severe mental gymnastics to reach that point, and it has. All right, these are emotionally charged issues, but the fact is that this is a serious crime. Appeal to authority. All right, so she may insist that the medical establishment supports her position. Right? Institutional approval does not make an act morally or legally right. History is full of sanctioned atrocities, right? And claiming ignorance. I don't believe this would work, but she might claim she did not know or believe that life begins at fertilization. As a trained doctor, this is not a believable defense. Even if she truly believed it, reckless disregard for life does not absolve her. And the unprecedented nature, we never seen any kind of thing like this ever in no point in time in history, no civilization ever. Throughout history, no civilization has committed mass-scale infanticide under the guise of medicine to this extent. Right? The crime is so vast that the human mind struggles to comprehend its full horror, and the perpetrators are not outcasts, but respected members of society, hiding in plain sight. Right? Yeah. And so the injustice of taxpayer complicity, right? So property taxes, a necessity for housing, are being funneled into funding abortion services. Yeah. Citizens are forced to pay. They're forced to finance these crimes under the threat of losing their homes, right? So this is coercion, forcing people to contribute to an act they find morally abhorrent. All right. This is we shouldn't be forced to pay into this, but anyway, this is the act, right? This is a guilty act, and this is the certainly a video that will explain the core issue in an eagle-eye view. But there's many videos on this channel explaining in greater detail the different points raised here, and it certainly is a very heavy, very, very heavy on my mind. So, for example, my child would have been 10 years old, right? And my child would have been 10 years old, but don't kid yourself, right? The child was here, right? There was a child, and the child was killed because of this murderous, right? And that's it's a highly personal issue, but it's also you want to see some sort of some sort of acknowledgement or accountability, but I'm mature enough to understand that it will never happen, right? This is she's going to hit her golden years with retirement and enjoy her own grandchildren, and it's just going to be she's only going to be having to do some explaining the judgment at the end of her life. So whatever. At least there is a judgment, and there is certainly a judgment at the end of her life, and it's not going to be pretty. All right, so thank you very much for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time.